Hi everybody, it's Lauren, and today I am doing the Unpopular Opinions book tag. This is something that I've wanted to do since before I started my channel, so let's just dive right in. Number 1, what is a popular book or a series that you didn't like? I hesitated choosing this one because there are already a lot of people who don't like it, but there are still a lot of people who do, and I have to go with the Twilight Saga by Stephenie Meyer. I have most of the usual problems with these books, but there's one thing that really bothered me that I never see talked about. When I first started reading it, I was excited because I thought Bella was fairly relatable. She liked reading, she avoided the spotlight, she wasn't into partying, and I thought, hey, this is an introverted protagonist. This is gonna be awesome. And the author tanked it. Opportunity missed. Because these traits were not used to make Bella a unique and interesting and complex character, but instead to isolate her from everybody else. So it turned more into that I'm not like other girls thing and less of I am an introvert and that's okay. A few mainstream introverted girls that I thought were very well done were Hermione Granger, Katniss Everdeen, and Kath from Fangirl. Number 2, a popular book or series that you liked but everyone else hates. For me, this book was definitely The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. I think being a classic is enough qualification to say this book is popular. And yeah, I was one of those people in high school English class who actually liked the books we were reading. Except for Death of a Salesman, I wasn't a fan of that. At any rate, I had an English teacher who told me that in her experience, students who hated Holden Caulfield tended to have had a pretty good life so far, and I totally agree. It's very easy to judge Holden when you come from an emotionally privileged place, and by that I mean mostly sheltered. This obviously isn't a universal experience, but a lot of teenagers and adults who have dealt with loss and mental illness and trauma really resonate with Holden, and I definitely do. And I did when I read it when I was 16. So when people just dismiss him as whiny, it makes me really annoyed. The book is permeated by this deep loneliness that Holden struggles with throughout the whole thing, and I am intimately familiar with that feeling. Number 3, an OTP that you hate. Hate is a strong word. I have to emphasize that I do not hate the characters, I hate the ship. And that is Luna Lovegood with Neville Longbottom. It annoyed me so much that this was implied in the last Harry Potter movie. First of all, it's not canon, but that's its own thing. But also it's cliche and it's way too obvious. And I resent the implication that an offbeat side character can only end up with another offbeat side character. It feels like this high school elitism, like because everyone else is out of their league, they can only end up together. Now, I know that not all Neville and Luna shippers think this way and legitimately think that they're adorable together, but that's the way that it strikes me, and it makes me really uncomfortable. In the book canon, Neville ends up with Hannah Abbott, who's a Hufflepuff, if you are as obsessed with the books as I am and you remember the few times that she showed up. I don't really have an opinion on this except to say that I can see Neville ending up with a Hufflepuff. And Luna marries into the Scamander family, and her husband Rolf is a naturalist like Newt. We don't really know anything about Rolf and his personality, so I can't really talk about them as a couple, but the idea of someone as sweet and creative and curious as Luna Lovegood ending up related to Newt Scamander by marriage, I just love that idea. Number 4, a popular genre that you hardly ever reach for. Romance, especially in adult fiction. The books that I read do usually have a romantic subplot in them, but I prefer it as a subplot rather than a main plot, especially in adult books, because usually in YA, when the romantic relationship is the main focus of the book, it's used more as a device for a coming-of-age story rather than romance for the sake of romance. Number 5, a popular character that you don't like. Severus Snape. I hate Severus Snape so much. Just to be clear, I'm not hating on people who like Snape. I'm saying that from everything I read in the books, he's a creep. And the fact that J.K. Rowling tried to shove down my throat this idea that he deserves to be lauded as this hero makes me sick. I appreciate and even like that he was a complicated character and that made him very human. But he was a human who made horrible decisions and decided to never grow up and deal with his shit, which I just can't respect. I understand that he came from a traumatic childhood, but that's not an excuse for bullying children, joining a hate group, and I don't even know what else to say. I understand why the story about his love for Lily feels redeeming for him. The way I see it, he didn't love her so much as he fixated on her. I have no doubt that he cared about her, especially when they were kids. But ultimately, he rejected her friendship and pulled away so that he could put this idealized version of Lily on a pedestal and admire it from afar, which is a toxic way to think about somebody. Back to Snape's childhood and why I don't think it excuses anything. You know who else had traumatic childhoods? Sirius, Remus, Harry, Neville, Luna. They all had traumatic childhoods. What makes them different from Snape is, unlike him with Lily, they accepted love when it was offered to them and used that as strength and support to become better people and kinder people to varying degrees of success. To be fair, I could do an entire video on Sirius alone, but the point is that they tried, and Sirius tried, and Harry tried, and Neville tried. Having a crappy childhood explains being a crappy adult. It doesn't excuse it. Lily could have been, for Snape, what Ron and Hermione were for Harry and what James was for Sirius, but he rejected her. So that's really the big difference that I saw, and I just can't respect someone who decided to stay immature throughout his adult life and never let go of those grudges. The only remotely good motivators that Snape ever had was his obsession with Lily and his debt to Dumbledore, and that's just not virtuous in any way. And even though he was integral to ending the war, I don't think he deserves that heroic title. Number 6, a popular author that you can't seem to get into. This isn't an author I dislike so much as one that I just find really meh and kind of overhyped, and that is Cassandra Clare. I have and read the first 3 Mortal Instruments books, and they were enjoyable, but like I said, meh. I didn't find the characters particularly engaging. The world building was okay, and most of the relationships were pretty bland. I just sort of went through those books without feeling anything positive or negative about it. And then I have read about 70 to 80% of Clockwork Angel. And if reading the Mortal Instruments was kind of boring, then reading this was like trying to run in knee-deep mud. It was just such a slog to try to get through. I was bored the whole time. I didn't understand any of the characters. And eventually I just DNF'd it because I was like, I'm not investing any more time in this. So sorry, Cassandra Clare, I'm just not into it. Number 7, a popular book trope that you're tired of seeing. Not to beat a dead horse here, but love triangles. They're so overdone and overused that anytime I see it now, I can't help but feel like it's lazy writing, like the author needed a source of conflict but didn't want to really work on any of the potential problems that could come up in a relationship, of which there are thousands, and it was just like, I'm gonna do a love triangle because tried and true, right? I'm bored. Number 8, a popular book or series that you have no interest in reading. Definitely Me Before You by Jojo Moyes, because I can never, ever stomach or condone that kind of insidious ableism. You can write about the struggles of disabled characters as long as it's done respectfully and you do your research and you talk to people. Reach out to someone you know. If you don't know anybody that's disabled, go to Tumblr. You will find plenty of diverse people who will give you advice on how to write marginalized characters. Because, hey, they want to see accurate representation. Disability definitely makes your life different. It doesn't make it bad. And I know that a lot of disabled people felt very offended by this book because of that. I can't believe that I have to say something that's supposed to be this obvious, but disability does not ruin your life. You can have a fantastic life with a disability. And not only is it insulting, but it's just not creative to only focus on the things that like your character can't do that typical people can do. There are so many more interesting things you can do with disparate characters. I'm gonna give you an example. One of my earliest memories was of my grandmother, who was in an electric wheelchair, letting us hop onto the back and stand on the little things over the back wheels and hold on tight while she sped as fast as she could down the sidewalk. It was so much fun. And I can guarantee that almost no other grandparent would be able to do that. Working in little things like that is what makes a story interesting. And number 9, a TV show or movie adaptation that you think was better than the book. This was a hard one because I almost invariably prefer the book over a film adaptation. But I finally landed on Talc Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt. Now, to be fair, I read the book and watched the movie years and years ago, so I'm working off of some pretty old memories here. But I remember what struck me about the book was that the way Winnie found out about the Tuck's immortality was contrived, in my opinion, and I liked the way it happened so much better in the movie. I liked the drama that surrounded it, I liked the build-up, and I actually like the romance that they added. I don't normally like romance put into an adaptation when it wasn't in the book. Prince Caspian comes to mind. But this one I liked. I don't know if I would still have that opinion if I rewatched the movie now, but I liked it at the time, especially with Alexis Bledel as the female lead. If you want to do this tag and nobody's tagged you, then I tag everyone. You can say that I tagged you. I mean, God knows nobody tagged me. If I offended anybody because I mentioned a book that you really loved, I am sorry. It was not my intention. I just really wanted to get out my own personal feelings about these books. If you would like to counter anything that I've said, or you just have thoughts that you'd like to share, please leave them in the comments below. I will definitely read them. If you liked this video, consider giving it a thumbs up. And if you really liked this video and would like to see more from my channel, hit that subscribe button and I will see you next time.